What if Henry VIII had a secret daughter who lived close enough to the Tower of London to feel its stones breathing, close enough to the throne to ruin everything, but too dangerous to ever acknowledge? For centuries, historians treated this as court gossip, a rumor meant for candlelit corridors. But land grants do not whisper, they declare. And when you follow the money, the crown's silence starts to look less like uncertainty and more like strategy. They called her Audrey, sometimes Ethel, a name borrowed from saints and given to a child born in shadow. The records place her birth somewhere between 1527 and 1535. No exact date. Because bastards do not get birth announcements. They get silence. And Audrey's silence was bought. The official story says she was the illegitimate daughter of John Malty, the king's personal tailor, and a laundress named Joan Dingley in September 1546. Malty wrote his will and named her bluntly, "My bastard daughter." Case closed. If you want it to be. Except the gifts that followed were not tailor-sized. They were royal, lordships, manors, churches, entire estates ripped from dissolved monasteries, thousands of pounds in land value. Rewards so large they stop looking like gratitude and start looking like a transaction. The deal reads like this: Malty claims the girl, Malty raises her, Malty protects her, and in exchange, the king pays for the lie that keeps his dynasty from cracking open. Because in Tudor England, illegitimate daughters were not useless. They were weapons that could be pointed back at the throne. The paperwork says Audrey was John Malty's bastard, conceived with Joan Dingley, later wife of a man named Dobson. The language is clinical, almost cold, as if naming her that way drains her of danger. But then the crown starts transferring wealth into Malty's hands. And suddenly the story becomes harder to swallow. May 1541, Malty receives lordships and manors in Berkshire, with vicarages and churches attached. Not pocket change. Not a small thank you for stitching royal robes. July 1544, Malty and the girl, now appearing in grants alongside him, receive manors and lands in Somerset valued at more than £1. 800. Properties once belonging to Glastonbury Abbey, seized during the dissolution. Abbey land was the crown's most powerful currency. It could make men rich, loyal, and silent. September 1546. Another grant. More than £1. 300 for the lordship and manor of Kelston. Then Staint, Catherine's court. An estate large enough to make nobles stare. This is not how kings reward tailors. This is how kings pay for problems to disappear. Imagine being that child. Your father measures the king's waistline. Yet you live like aristocracy. You are educated like a court lady. People bow when you pass, then whisper when you are gone. Courtiers look at you the way people look at a spark near dry straw. Don't touch. Don't stare. Don't give it oxygen. You hear the rumors anyway. You always do. They say your real father wears a crown, and they say he will never claim you. Because you are not a son who can be made useful. You are a girl, a secret, a liability that can become a banner if the wrong hands grab it. By the time Malty dies in 1547, Audrey inherits everything: land, wealth, and the knowledge that her life was built on a purchased lie. Her mother's name drifts in the records as Joan Dingley or Joanna. Never fixed, never honored. What does stay fixed is her job: laundress. A laundress sounds small until you understand what she handled. The king's shirts, the bed linens, the stained cloth from his private world, the blood and seepage from bandages wrapped around infected leg ulcers, the intimate evidence of what happened when doors closed and guards faced outward. Discretion was not a virtue. It was survival. One word in the wrong ear and you vanished. But laundresses had access. In the 1,520 seconds, the king's privy chambers were guarded like vaults. Gentlemen of the bedchamber controlled who entered. Laundresses moved through those spaces like ghosts, collecting soiled linen, delivering clean shirts, learning the rhythms of privacy and weakness. They knew when a corridor was empty. They knew when guards were distracted. They knew when a man who believed he owned everything might take what he wanted from the nearest invisible woman. And the timing matters. Audrey was likely born between 1,527 and 1,535. Right in the middle of Henry's long campaign to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. These were the years Henry broadcast restraint to Europe, insisting he would not truly live as a married man until Anne Boleyn. But men like Henry rarely practice restraint, not when the court exists to serve appetite. So, the story becomes a blade, a laundress close enough to be convenient, low enough that no one would care, until pregnancy made the secret visible. Then Malty steps in, the tailor who understands transactions, and the crown pays him to absorb the scandal. After the child is born, Joan disappears from the center of the story. The record suggests she marries a man named Dobson and starts a life away from court. No public claim. No daughter raised at her side. The baby is handed to Malty like a package. Problem solved. Except the baby does not disappear. She grows up inside the halo of money and silence, surrounded by people who know something is wrong but will not say it aloud. Her father gives her a name and protection. But the estates do not come from his needle and thread. They come from the king's need for a cover story. Years later, the truth slips. Not from Henry's hand, but from someone who benefits from the secret. Sir John Harrington, poet and writer, records scandalous anecdotes in a work known for preserving gossip powerful people wanted buried. He describes his father's first wife, Ethel. And he does not call her the daughter of a tailor. He calls her the king's natural daughter. That phrase matters. It is direct, and it is dangerous. Harrington says that in 1546, Henry granted massive estates to John Malty and Ethel because the king had special love and regard for her. Special love is not language used for a servant's bastard. It is language that smells like bloodline. Harrington claims the estates were granted for her use and benefit, and that she was placed under Malty's care to hide the truth, passing publicly as Malty's daughter, while court whispers suggested otherwise. Then comes the marriage. Soon after the estates arrive, Ethel is married to Harrington's father, a confidential servant of the king, not a random match, a placement, a controlled future. Henry choosing a man loyal enough to protect a secret that could burn the dynasty if it ever became useful to enemies. This does not look like charity. It looks like containment. Another piece enters decades later, a 1,656 letter attributed to a man named Jonathan Leslie, claiming family knowledge passed down through descendants. The letter says Henry matched his darling daughter to John Harrington. Darling daughter, not ward. Not favored child. Daughter. But Henry never signs a document calling her that. No proclamation. No title. No ceremonial acknowledgement. Because acknowledging her would force the question Henry could not survive politically. When was she conceived? If she was born during the 7-year crisis when Henry claimed he lived in restraint while fighting to annul his marriage, then a secret daughter would expose the performance. It would prove the purity narrative was propaganda, not conscience. It would show Europe not a king torn by morality, but a king taking what he wanted and inventing holy excuses afterward. And Henry understood something Tudor England never forgot. A woman with royal blood can be turned into a weapon even if she has no legal claim. She can be used as a symbol, a rallying point, a marriage tool for foreign powers, a spark for rebellion. So Ethel lives in the margins, wealthy enough to be safe, quiet enough to be deniable. She moves through court without being called what she might be. The legitimacy she is given comes through land grants and whispers, not ceremonies. She is near the center of power, but never named as part of it. Imagine waking every day carrying royal blood and being forbidden to say it aloud.